Stillness, silence. We've been taught to fear it, as if silence is empty, as if doing nothing is laziness, as if stillness means stagnation. But that's only because we don't understand its language. Silence is not the absence of life. It is the womb of it. It's where all things begin and all things return. Before any word is spoken, there's a pause. Before the breath rises, there's a stillness. Before the storm breaks, there's that deep, pregnant quiet in the air. That quiet is not absence, it is presence. Detachment teaches us to return to this place, to this center. And the incredible paradox is that the more we detach, the more we become receptive. We begin to hear things we never heard before, not because they weren't there, but because we were too loud to notice. The universe is whispering all the time, but it doesn't shout. It waits for you to get quiet enough to listen. In silence, you meet yourself, not the version the world applauds, not the one you've constructed to please others, but the raw, honest presence that simply is, the you beneath the roles, the one that doesn't need to prove, to perform, or to push, the one that already belongs. And here's the thing, power doesn't always come with force. True magnetism isn't found in shouting across the void. It's found in becoming so deeply rooted in your own being that others are drawn in, not because you reach for them, but because they feel the pull of something real, something still, something sovereign. Think of the ocean, how it moves without rush, how it can crash or remain perfectly still, yet never loses its depth. Detachment, in its truest form, mirrors this depth. It allows you to observe life's drama without being consumed by it. It gives you the grace to walk away, not out of bitterness, but out of reverence, for your peace, for your center, for your knowing. And in that knowing, you become profoundly magnetic, not because you try to attract, but because you no longer need to. You become like a mountain, still silent and utterly unshaken. People sense it. Opportunities sense it. Even chaos, in the presence of that stillness, begins to quiet itself. So many people are searching for strength in the wrong places. They try to be louder, faster, more impressive. But strength is not noise. Real strength is the ability to sit in a storm and not become the wind. It's in the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing to prove. Someone who knows they are part of something vast, divine, and exquisitely timed. There's no need to force the river. It's already flowing in the direction you're meant to go. Detachment is not floating aimlessly. It's trusting the current. It's understanding that stillness is not stuckness, but alignment. And when you are aligned, everything else begins to move around you as if by some invisible orchestration. It is in silence that the stars move, in stillness that mountains are born, and in surrender that you begin to remember who you truly are. Because the most powerful presence in this world is the one that can remain silent and still be felt in every corner of the room. There's something profoundly liberating about realizing you are not what happens to you. Not the heartbreaks, not the triumphs, not even the story you tell yourself when no one else is listening. All those emotions, identities, attachments, they're like weather patterns passing through. Beautiful, intense, sometimes destructive, but never permanent. Yet we cling to them, don't we? We say, I am sad, I am angry, I am a failure, or I am a success, as if these are the definitions of who we are, instead of temporary visitors. But if you really stop for a moment and look closely, you'll see that you're not the storm. You are the sky it moves through. The storm never stays, but the sky remains, vast, open, untouched, Detachment, in this way, isn't the rejection of feeling. It's the gentle reminder that you are more than what you feel. It's the awareness that you are the observer, not the observed. Hoping to someday, and here's where it gets interesting, we spend our lives trying to build a self-image, a personality, a narrative that we can present to the world. We gather labels like trophies. We curate identities. We wrap ourselves in what others think of us. But all of that is surface level, just ripples on the ocean. The deeper truth is not in who you appear to be, but in who you are when everything falls silent, hoping to some that quiet self that watch your thoughts go by like clouds across a blue sky. When you begin to detach from the need to constantly be someone, a lightness returns. You don't have to prove anything to someday. You don't have to react to every trigger. You don't have to chase validation like a thirsty man in a desert. Instead, you become curious. When sadness shows up, you say, "Ah, here you are again," and you sit with it like an old friend. When joy arrives, you welcome it too, knowing it will pass like all things do. What detachment gives you is not coldness. It's clarity. You begin to see that even your most intense emotions are not permanent tenants, they are guests, and some of them bring gifts. Pain, for instance, often arrives with a message something needs to be healed, noticed, transformed. But if you believe you are the pain, you miss the message entirely. You identify with the wound instead of listening to it. You are not your worst day, not your greatest achievement, not your childhood trauma or your adult insecurities. You are the awareness behind them, and that awareness is unshakable, untouched, whole, and strangely hoping to someday. When you stop trying to hold on to every identity, when you stop saying this is who I am, the world becomes less threatening, because you no longer need everything to go a certain way in order to feel safe. Someday, you've discovered something that cannot be taken from you, not by rejection, not by loss, not even by death. You become less reactive, more responsive, less tangled in the highs and lows, more grounded in the middle path, not indifferent, but centered. And that center, that calm awareness, begins to radiate outward. People feel it. And you walk into a room and you don't have to speak to be heard. Your presence speaks for itself. Not loud, not boastful, but quietly unshakable. And that's what happens when you no longer confuse yourself with the storm. When you step back just far enough to realize that you are the vastness holding it all, the space in which everything comes and goes. Because when you stop believing you are the waves, you remember. You've always been the ocean. There's a curious thing that happens when you finally let go. Life, as if by some mysterious agreement, begins to flow back toward you. Not always in the ways you expected, and certainly not always on your timeline, but with a kind of quiet precision that makes you pause and say, "Ah, so this is what it was all leading to." But of course, you never see that while you're clinging. It only becomes clear after the release. We've been conditioned to believe that letting go means loss. That if you stop holding on, stop chasing, stop trying to make something work, it will vanish. But that's a misunderstanding. Letting go isn't rejection. It's alignment. It's the recognition that what is truly meant for you doesn't require you to break yourself to receive it. Look closely at nature. The trees don't grip their leaves in winter. They release them, trusting spring will come again. Rivers don't cling to rocks, they flow, and in flowing, they find their way to the sea. Letting go is not the end of effort. It's the end of unnecessary struggle. It's not giving up. It's giving in to something greater than your plans, something wiser than your fear. We often want life to behave like a machine, predictable, programmable, logical. But life is more like music. It has rhythm, harmony, silence, and crescendo. Sometimes what looks like nothing happening is simply the rest between two notes. And if you cut the music short to force a conclusion, you miss the melody entirely. Detachment allows you to trust that melody, to know that your timing is not always the same as divine timing. You may feel ready, but the soil may still be preparing itself. The fruit may still be ripening. And trying to force it before its time only leads to bitterness. So you breathe, you release, and you return to the stillness that allows things to unfold as they must. And here's where the paradox reveals itself. The moment you stop needing something to happen, you become a match for it. The desperation fades, the grasping relaxes, and suddenly, what once eluded you comes closer, not because you chased it down, but because you made space for it. This is the hidden magnetism of detachment. It draws life to you not by force, but by invitation. And the invitation is your peace, your groundedness, your presence. People, opportunities, love, they all feel it. They respond to it. Not to a version of you that's striving to impress, but to the you that has nothing to prove. You become like a lighthouse. You don't run around looking for ships to save. You stand still, and by simply being what you are, you guide others home. That doesn't mean nothing will hurt. Letting go often involves grief. It requires trust. It asks you to walk into the unknown, not knowing whether something better will come, but trusting that peace is better than bondage. And sometimes, that peace is the gift. Sometimes, freedom itself is the answer. Because not everything we lose is a punishment. Some things fall away because they were never truly ours, and in their absence we make room for what is. So we loosen our grip, not to abandon life, but to finally meet it. As it is, without distortion, without demand. We show up empty-handed, and somehow we leave full. And the beauty is, once you've experienced this, once you've seen life flow back into the open spaces you once filled with fear, you no longer panic when things fall away. You trust the pattern. You trust the pause. You know that what's meant for you will arrive, not because you chased it, but because you stopped running. Because the moment you stop trying to possess life, you realize it was always offering itself to you.